Oakley dokley. Good evening, heroes and heroines, and welcome to Practising Programming in C, where we're setting up the mic. That wasn't the mic, we're setting up the camera. And where we are also picking music. What did I think? I think I was thinking of Let It Be, wasn't I? Let's get this on. Also, let's get some tortoise going. This is all pre-planned. Have I got this in FLAC? I've got it in FLAC. Cool. That gives an hour and 18. I mean, that will take us to 10. Surely we need way more time than this, but let's start this. So, what we're doing is, we're going to syncdb, able to handle rearranged and deleted projects. Updating the project indices in the asset block. So if I run Cinera, I think we're showing the asset block after all this. Alright, we're not. So just let it synchronize and then we can take a look at the assets block. So here are the asset landmarks. We don't print out the projects block, which is something we could conceivably do. But if I can just describe the database structure from the perspective of the asset landmarks. This first column here, the dark black, or the light black, dark grey number here is the index number of the landmark. So that just monotonically increases as you go. It's going horizontally. Breadth first. This number here is the project index number, and that's the important thing actually that we need to be dealing with in this episode. This is the entry index number corresponding to the entry within this project, and then this is the byte offset into the HTML file corresponding to this entry of this project. -1 is equal to the search page, and then 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 onwards just corresponds to the regular old entries in that project. So as I say, this is the important thing to be talking about, and this number here is divided up into the generation and the index of that project. And I think we did have a little illustration of this. So here we go. If we just look into one of them, it doesn't matter. If we just look into this one, right? Here we have, apparently, a set of information, a set of projects that has 3 generations, 0, 1, 2, and 3. The 0th generation contains hero, which is 0, 0, OBPG, which is 0, 1, risky, which is 0, 2, Drake 0, 3, and bitwise as 0, 4. Unfortunately, I can't really zoom in into a nice size. Could I do this one to a nice-ish size? So you can actually see a bit closer. Let's do this one. So again, it's 3 generations, 0, 1, and 2 indices. We can illustrate the whole thing through this one as well. What is that? There's something there. Generation 1 consists of all of these from this row here. So you've got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Interesting to know is that these things just increase all across the whole thing. So they sort of they span projects right? So 1.5 doesn't mean that it's like the fifth entry of this parent, right? It means it's the fifth in the entirety of the family, essentially. And then we've got generation 2. Generation 2 contains software, hardware, code, and reader. Okay. So our goal, basically here, remember that the only place that these indices are being talked about is in the assets block. Basically what we need to do is, we need to figure out how to, it's essentially, what is it? It's, yeah, I think it's a similar thing to what is going on down here, right? So basically, the idea of this whole picture is to say the config starts off with this, the database is empty, we needed to put this entire thing into the database. Right, the next stage was the database was in this state and we were presented with a config like this, so we needed to figure out how to see whether that matches that, right? The next stage is then you take the same data, because this is just the same as that. The next stage is to take the database, well, the next stage is here, take this database and this input from the config, and you need to make the new database match this config, right? That's what we're trying to do. So essentially here you can sort of see that we've got a config that contains all this stuff here. Database contains this, and you can sort of, if you just look at it as a human being, don't know if you can look at it as any other person. You want to basically insert OBBG here between hero and risky. Well, actually, let's go through it. Let's go from left to right. You want to first of all remove software and hardware from here, right? You want to insert, I think everything else is the same, is it? Yeah, everything else looks the same to me. You want to insert OBBG here. You want to move book to precede risky, because it's currently, or I mean you can put it another way, you want to move risk to occur after book. Actually, let's think of it the other way. We're trying to use this as our base. So we're trying to, we're going through the config. We've encountered book here. We want to be able to detect that book actually occurs somewhere in this generation, I think. Is it the generation or the project? I think it's actually maybe just the project, actually. You want to be able to detect that book occurs in that project, and you want to swap the places of book and risk, right? And then you want to insert Drake after risky before bitwise, and then you want to take bitwise. You want to take bitwise, and you want to give it the children parsing and code gen, right? That's what you want to do. So there's a bunch of stuff in here. We've got deletion, we've got rearranging, and we've got adding people. So that's the goal. So if we're going to sync project, by the way, also once we've done that, the next step is going to be sussing out how to relieve us of the need to do this. Basically, we're going to. I mean, we'll get there, but that'll be the next step. It'd be essentially enabling us to handle the projects of multiple the insertion of entries for multiple different projects, basically. But we'll get there. So the thing we're looking at is syncdb. We've got a thing here, relocate projects and adjust asset landmarks accordingly. That's a thing that needs to happen. And delete project. So this does nothing, does it? Yeah. All it does is print the generations. Where's our recursive thing? So syncdb, sync projects, right? Yeah. So this is our recursive thing, isn't it? Isn't it? Insert project into DB. Yeah, there we go. So that this guy calls itself. Perfect. So yeah, it's relocate projects and adjust asset landmarks accordingly. We just need to do this for these two people to use. And we need to do the delete project for people to use. For both of these people to use. So should we do the delete project first? Since we've got that here. And then move on to the relocation. Because deletion is like a single case. It's simply like yeah, if you've got too many people in a given thing, then you're supposed to delete them. Yeah, let's try and do this. So let's just give us our test case. So let's say that we've got doesn't matter that whether we've got a title or not. Actually, you can probably just do this. So if we run this now, we should actually probably trigger an error because we'll just crash or whatever because we didn't actually handle adding the things. But what I'd like to do is get this into the database and then handle the deletion of it. So it's got added. Yeah. So there's bitwise. Got a title. So yeah, I suppose appending projects works. It's been interesting to see if I were to set the title, would that actually get through to the config, get through to the database? Doesn't matter if it doesn't because we're not doing this. Oh, alright, yeah. Probably easier to go the other way actually. Yeah, it doesn't. That's fine. Whereas with RISC-V reader, you can see that after reader and before the path, that's probably the base. isn't it? Yeah, it's going to be the base dir. Interestingly, we don't store the HTML input dir. I'm not sure if that's a problem. Yeah, I don't know if we'd have to store that. But anyway, so you've got risky, you've got reader, and then between the ID and the base directory, you've got a RISC-V reader. Well, you don't have that in bitwise. You just have bitwise, and then you've got zeros, which is fine. It's not what we're doing anyway. All we want to be able to do is to make sure that we can remove people. And also, I guess it could be useful also to get some entries into this thing. And also, another thing that we probably want to do is to remove somebody from the non-end, essentially. Because we need to make sure that we can actually decrement the project indices of people. Where is bitwise? So it's there. Oh, we just don't know what the owner is, do we? So I think if we just been hexed, we are. I think if I just put the owner in here, we might be able to find pair stuff, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think I've done pair yet, have I? Well, I've mentioned it up here. I'm sure it doesn't really matter actually what information I've even got for these people, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. But if I have to do that, it should be able to find the owner. So the HTML, basically it should be using the HTML dir, essentially is what I'm talking about. It should be able to derive all of this and find the bitwise HTML files, I think. So let's just see if that's true. So process code, there's char, process risky, and reader. So yeah, so project bitwise, we found that. Synchronizing did sod all. So why is that, I wonder? Where is it again? Oh, sorry. Pervonson. Bitwise. Oh, right. Okay, I know why. Basically, I just need to put it within another bitwise project. I think I was just prepared for the possibility of there being multiple things. So now that I've done this, actually, I don't. Well, actually, I mean, could this work? I mean, yeah, it might do, actually. Well, it doesn't. And it doesn't because it's skip project. It doesn't like on-site development. Right, that's fine. Doesn't matter. Just let it regen. it doesn't matter because this is exactly what we're trying to sort out. So it's risky going in. Oh yeah, I should actually ignore the privacy of these people. By the way, Criff, what hex editor do you use yourself? Skipping. Why is it skipping them? I wonder. Is it no default medium? Yeah, it's not saying why, unfortunately. I think it's because it's no default medium. Yeah, we should actually report that, shouldn't we? Yeah, so if we've got errors, if we don't have errors, then we try and pack the template. I think pack template should give us an error. If there's no default medium, have errors equals true. So, yeah. So they're saying customers. Print C, and we're going to do it as an error. Actually, I think this should work, shouldn't it? I think. No default medium setting config or medium. No default medium setting config or medium set. So, yeah. I suppose the other script things, they sort of don't have the thing in red, like they don't have the message in red. So perhaps I don't colorize it. So yeah, let's not print it in the colour. And no medium, yeah, no. Do we actually have, I don't think we've got a variable for the config path. Yeah, we don't. It's just right there. Yeah. That's fine. Yeah. Yeah, and there's a setting config or medium. So yeah, we can let those errors just keep going. So Cinera bitwise is coming through, so that's 1.8. Now, like I was saying, rather than sticking it at the end, let's actually put it before risky, let's say. Put it before risky, get it into the database, and then delete it and get that actual deletion correctly working. Oh yeah. I should just... Where's that ignore? Because otherwise we're just sitting there forever, just waiting for that thing to actually happen. So now we've got bitwise at 1.8. Do we have anyone at 1? Oh, you know what? Also, is scuppering us. It's the include. It's this thing. Let's just stick him in there as well. Although, now that I think about it, what is this actually doing? It's doing basically nothing. So let's just get rid. And instead, blimey, set the default medium to well, I mean, everyone's going to be just set to default program medium, aren't they? Because basically what that's going to do is, it's going to give us the project hierarchy, all this lot, because we're including it here, before this stuff here. So it's going to actually enforce the hierarchy. So the hierarchy that we're putting out here ain't going to actually, it's just going to follow that already set hierarchy. There we go, got through it, no problem. So yeah, it was bitwise. So the Cinera risky down there. Right, here, perfect. So Cinera bitwise at 1.5. Cinera risky is used in 1.6. So essentially what we're trying to do here, 1.5 is the only one that is associated with bitwise. Right, we'll see that popping up in various places. It's 1.5, isn't it? Bitwise. 1.5 is there. 1.5. 1.5 or 1.5. Right. So essentially, what we need to do is the following. We're taking the project generations, so we know, what is that actually? Is that the accumulator? Generations. So it's the accumulator. So yes, I think it is, isn't it? So what that means is, at the point at which we call delete project, we know where we're up to. Is that right? We know what project we're talking about. So basically we're going to come into this, and we're probably going to see that we're talking about 0 to 1 actually, isn't it? We need to then descend into this person, so we're at 1. project generations is so actually, yes, we've already accumulated into the project generations for each generation where we're up to, I think. So by this point, we should have accumulated all of the people from Hero. So that's 4, isn't it? Well, 5, 0 indexed. So we should know that we have processed up to that number. So that the next person in our project, like our first child, is going to be 1, 5. Right, which is exactly what we're seeing here in the thing. Right, Cinera bitwise it's 1, 5. Should we just see it? Should we just actually trigger this and see what we're presented with? Actually, so we don't have to be actually guessing. So there's one bit of information we don't really know. Oh, we don't need to know. I was going to say one bit of information we don't know is the total number of projects in the database, but we don't care about that. All we care about is the landmarks, is the project indices, because this is the only place that these numbers even occur. So literally, it's just like you go into the assets block and you just go through the generations, don't you? And for each generation, you just peel off, or you decrement the project index, right? So if there are people in here that were saying in the 0th generation, there isn't, because they're all deeper down than that. But if there were landmarks in here in the 0th generation, then all you do is, upon encountering this project that you want to delete, which is at 0, 1, you delete this person, and then you just sort of say that everyone from 0, 2 onwards, you decrement their index, right? So you just do a pass through all of them like that. Oh, and you also need to actually delete the landmarks. That's one thing you have to do, isn't it? I think that's true. So you delete the landmark, and then you decrement the landmarks of the previous people, of the following people, and then you need to just send into the thing. But I think, yeah, let's, as a very first step, let's just get this. Let's just step into it. Delete the dude. Right, so that's deleted that. Another thing, going to delete project. Yeah, okay, so we've got 2 in the current generation. Okay. And we've got 8 in generation 1. So we already have that many, do we? 2, 2. Now, I think, what is P saying? that is saying bitwise. So I would have expected 1.8 not to have been the thing, actually. So I think we need to pass another thing. Somehow. So we've got project generations. What else have we got available to us at this point? Show the generations. Oh, right, yeah, I see. How do you know, then? Because basically we got through this whole function. We probably got through this one, actually. I mean, we can see, can't we? So it's the delete projects call in sync db. So it's, yeah, it is in here. So yeah, we've got through this entire loop, populating the, or incrementing the accumulator. Oh, tell you what. Maybe we actually need to do it earlier. Also, I think we might need to in 2 places. So when you're going through stored parent is what that is. So you're going through the configs people. So we're going through the config, which is now lacking somebody. Yeah, so I mean already this means we are relocating, aren't we? Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. I think we need to do this. What does in sync equals false tell us? So that's in sync equals true. Oh, that's just for that. Yeah, that's gonna go. If SI is equal to that, then this. No, hang on a second. We're setting this to be that. If they match, then we do this stuff. Yeah, I mean, I feel like even right here, if they don't match, because you're already setting this, I kind of feel like this, yeah, this case maybe shouldn't be doing anything. If these guys don't match at this point, because if they're setting that, if they don't match, then proceed through the rest of the loop, through the rest of the stored people, to like save off where we're up to in the accumulator. Can you do that? Like what is this? Because I think it's a multiple. The system has multiple things, isn't it? Yeah, it's got a count. They don't match, right? Because we're going to be testing bitwise against risky, which doesn't, well, bitwise which doesn't exist anymore, against risky. Good evening, Delta. That's thingy. So S child is here. Oh, we can just use, yeah, I believe we can just use the S child to, yes, to skip. So it's like the test, basically. I guess actually that won't quite work, will it? Right, so you set up your test. as the person after the S child. And then you say, it's this test up here. Pretty sure it's got to be +1 also. And we're always testing against the C child, right? Because that's the person we're trying to actually talk about. Yeah, if that matches, we need to do the shufti. Yeah. So we're testing that against that. The S child is the person we want to be removing. I think let's, first of all, let's just see if we can even get here. And I think we should be able to get here safely. Without screwing anything up. Because we haven't done anything else, have we? Delete projects happens down here, which we're not going to encounter just at the moment. Yeah, I think what I'd like to do is remove the database, get bitwise back in, and then remove it and step in to syncdb and try and get us through this loop. And I'd just like to follow it through just to see exactly what's going on. So we should fail this test. Sorry, we should succeed actually for the first time. So this one, we should fail this test. And we do. So now test is going to be skipping that stored child. So the stored child is bitwise. Bitwise is absent from the config. We're talking about risky. Now when we set the test will be set to risky, won't it? Yeah. So this is going to actually succeed. Hold on a second. SI is equal to that. The S parent count should be 3 actually, shouldn't it? Yeah, I think we're okay. Yeah. So yeah, we are going to get into here. Right, perfect. So we are getting here. So having got here, what do we know? why is it absent? What does the accumulator look like? So we're currently looking at generation 0, which has a count of 2 as far as we're aware. So there's 1 entry in generation, we know that. So 0, 1. That's right, isn't it? We know this is the person that we should be deleting. Do we know that at this point, actually? Actually, no, I don't think we do. I think at this point, all we actually know at this point is that the risky project is supposed to have its thing move back 1. So it's like, it sort of seems like we want to so we've got bitwise stored. It kind of seems like we still got the S child, haven't we? Yeah, it's bitwise, it's got child count of 1. Having found this, doesn't it seem like every time you do this, every time you skip a project and child, you actually want to accumulate into a new set of project indices? So that you know, I mean, obviously you're only going to have the 1 from at the top level, but then you need to know how many children this person has got, and then how many children they've got. So that you can then actually kind of decrement the project indices of all the people that are basically risky and onwards. That's all right. I'm going to come to that beautiful message in a sec, daughter. So what I'm thinking is accumulate well, it's just accumulate the yeah, we know what that means. Accumulate the project generations of S child. And then, having accumulated those, Uh, so if you've got 1, you want to take the difference between the SI2 and the SI. Is that right? Because the SI is essentially bitwise, right? And this new guy is risky. Yeah, I do feel like this is the right way to go about it. In the sense that if we're going to actually do this thing here, then when we come down to do this, then we will actually have to come down and do this. So this would be the more appropriate way to do it. Because the other alternative, essentially what we're actually trying to do here, is to delete bitwise. That's all we need to do. But we also need to handle the situation in which projects just get rearranged. So one option could be, like in here, get ourselves out to the very end of the loop and then do the delete. But then that sort of it kind of obstructs our ability to rearrange, right? But if what I'm basically driving at is, if at this point we just rearrange the people, then bitwise is going to naturally end up off the end, isn't it? So we've put risky in its place, risky and its children in its place, and then when we come down here, we can actually perform the deletion down here. I think that's the right way to do it. Take the difference between the SI risky and the SI bitwise, SI2 risky, and the SI bitwise. But it might be non-zero. So we're looking at the stored. I think we're basically talking about moving all of those people back. Is that right? Yeah, decrementing all those by 1, incrementing us by however many there are. But we also need to, in decrementing those people, we also need to know how to decrement their children. Right? So it kind of argues for, if we get into the situation at all, the very first thing we do, well, yeah, it's just right here, isn't it? Yeah, accumulate the project generations of S-charts, so we know what that is. And then as we go through each person, we need to actually accumulate that. Right? So maybe the first thing we do here each time we loop it, we accumulate the project generations of the test. So we descend into it and figure out how many children it's all got. And then if we get here, and I guess we could have accumulated it at any point. I'm not sure if it really matters where. If we get here, then we accumulate the project generations of the S child, take the diff between the SI2 and risky, and then we we just use the two accumulators, and then somehow use the two accumulators to shuffle. To shuffle our dudes, I don't know. Let's have a look. Traffic was really project in the highest for about a year or so. Okay, I expected to just march in and make everything everywhere like I used to. Really alien. I felt mentally disabled, trying to just understand everything. Doesn't help that project isn't that small. There's many intricate things about. I tried. It's multiple has interesting architectural requirements and lots of unknowns. Notice I lack. My code lacks explicit invariance, which I feel is a pretty important thing I need to change. I feel like we're the whole project where I want to remember a good J2 for that. I don't know how that rely on C processors a lot. Explicit invariance. Blimey. Yeah, I don't do much of this kind of stuff at all. I didn't even know you could do that, actually. Oh, is that just doing the paste operator? Oh yeah, because it's a macro. Right, blimey. So let's just read that again, that explicit variance. I think I might know what this means. So essentially, instead of having... So I have a bunch of push functions, right? Push HTML watch handle, push asset landmark, push template tag, push generation. So I've got a load of pushes. Essentially, is an explicit invariance something like this, as opposed to more the macro style thing, where you sort of call the one size fits all thing, and produce the full function name from that. You like truths, huh? Okay. There are no things that are always true that you can start. Oh. Ah, okay. If it's the things that always the same. I see. I don't think I've encountered that. Neighbour is guaranteed to always return a valid point or something like that. I see. Skip project. Yeah, right, I've got you, I think. Yeah, I mean, in this case here, this skip project in children it's not actually going to return necessarily a DB header project, because it could return a pointer that's beyond the headers block. And you're basically reliant on the loop to prevent that from being a problem. Should we try this then? Let's try and get a new accumulator going. Because we have got this accumulator down here. This is not a problem if they're in the code once if returns. Yeah, it's never been a problem for me. Accumulate the project generations of test each loop. Let's just do this, right? So we're basically taking a project generations accumulator. So the test accumulator, what do we actually need to start off with? I think we just need to say that the test accumulator's current generation is the main accumulator's current generation, isn't it? I think that's what you need to say. And then each time through the loop, you just say, just accumulate this project. Right? So how do we want to do this? I think you just need to yeah, it's just accumulate, isn't it? So it's going to be the test accumulator and the test. It's hard to follow when you have to place in a game using table. It's getting it to be slightly different. Yeah. Accumulate project indices. So I think all you do is you add an entry for the actual person. And then you just, I think it's just this. Increment current generation. And then it's like for int I is equal to 0. P is equal to project count, isn't it? Or child count, something. Decrement the current generation. For each child, you add that child itself, and I think you also want to say accumulate that project generations. Project indices, rather. Why does it need to say the project? The P index is equal to get current project index. If we've got G, push generation. The P index is equal to get current project index. How does it know it? P. Yeah, I don't think I want to be actually setting that index, do I? Do I? Actually, maybe it is okay. Not exactly sure, but I think it might be alright. It's possible I might need a different version that doesn't do that, actually. And also, that isn't even the right kind of thing, is it? Yeah, that's taking a project, which this isn't a project. So actually, I think we're fine. All you need to do is you need to say this. So we're not gonna pass the actual project. We're just gonna do this. Because what that's saying is expecting you to pass the oh right, yeah, of course it doesn't. Get first child, isn't it? Yeah. And then you need to skip the child. Yeah, that project that I was talking about was the project in the config, which we don't want to modify. So that's fine. that's all it needs to do. Should we see what it does? So what we're saying is accumulate this project indices for the test. And then we want to accumulate the project generations trials, so let's just do that. See what it does. Oh no, it's accumulator. So test accumulator. Should we just say it's the child accumulator? I don't think we're actually touching the current generation. Sorry, the actual canonical accumulator at this point, are we? Because that's only being touched down here, and then we should well, that's down there. Up here, do we add an entry? Yeah, add an entry to generation, and then there should be some stuff going on. So try to accumulate into the child accumulator, the S child, isn't it? So let's see what we're presented with once we get there. We also do need to free those generations. So if we've got in here, right, because once we're done with this, we should be free to go. Let's have a look. So the test is delete the database, delete this, get a bit more interesting with our actual test case. It's a galaxy. What I'm doing is I'm making the database, trying to make the database basically permit insertions, reorganizations and deletions of projects. Yeah, that's a bit of a joke actually. I mean, this is exactly what I'm doing. We're trying to add, move and delete projects from the database, but I'm not actually doing it in assembly. Yeah. So essentially, this is the assets block here. We have a block in the database for asset landmarks, and we also have a block for projects. So I can show you that actually, show you the whole thing. So here we go. This is the database. You got your main header, got your projects block, which is all of this stuff here. So it's containing hero, intro to C, code, you'll see down there, all of code. We're going to go through risky business. We're going to go through bitwise first actually, and then we're going to go through risky, and then we come through to that's code, and then we come through to the assets block, and you can you can view the assets block a bit more readily in this printout here. So we've got an asset for this thing here, and essentially what I'm doing is, you know, like you had the project up here, these are sort of laid out in such a way that they have indices, which are these people here. I'm basically trying to get to a situation where I can remove a project from the database and correctly fix up the project indices in the asset landmarks, and also insert people and correctly fix up these, and kind of move people around and fix up these asset landmark project indices. So that's essentially what I'm trying to do. So what we're doing is, as a test, we're using bitwise as our test. So we've created the thing, we've generated the thing with bitwise, haven't we? Yeah. We've generated the database with bitwise here, and our test is to remove bitwise and rerun it, and we're basically trying to get ourselves into the situation where we can actually perform this removal from the actual database. So syncdb, and we want to be testing this area here. So when we get down to here, let's see what we're actually producing, because we know that we get to this test at least, this case. So test is risky, isn't it? I think, yeah. Really should set that as a default option. So we've got risky as our test. And the accumulator, let's just have a look at that first of all. Probably yeah, the entries aren't even, we don't have anything in, so they're not actually initialized. Current generation is 0. There's no people in this generation. Let's step into this. So yeah, I guess this is okay. So basically what this means is we're going to be adding an entry to this generation, which is going to increment the count of the current generation by 1. Isn't it? Well, actually, it's going to add a generation. Actually, it's going to add a generation to this, which I think is fine, and say that that person has 1 entry. So basically, then we can use the entries in generation with the first one that has an entry. Is that right? Oh, actually, this might actually be busted. Let's just step into this and add entry generation. Yeah, it's just pushing a generation, so it actually needs to. It kind of needs to fast forward, doesn't it, to the current generation. Let's continue anyway and see what happens. I think it might coincidentally work because we're only adding to the 0th generation, but it might be an issue when we're adding, or when we're deleting somebody from a generation that's not non-zero, basically. So here we go. We've added a entry generation. it's not that. So we've got 1 generation is what that means. And we've got 1 entry in that generation. Yeah. So there's our first child. Now we're looking into the generation 1. To add a person, accumulate that project indices. So we're looking at risky. Oh, actually, you don't actually do that, do you? Because when you come into here, this is going to do that, so you don't actually add the generation. That's wrong. You just need to accumulate the project indices. You do that, and then you do that for that child. So yeah, this is not right, but we'll continue. So you see that we basically doubly incremented that, because we didn't. Oh, sorry, we doubly added the entry because we incremented the generation once here. Added that entry, and then we've added the entry to the same generation. So yeah, that ain't right. So I suppose let's just fix that. Should we? Well, actually, let's just continue, just knowing that that's bogus, and just see what we've actually been presented with. So we've got 3 generations. We've got risky, risky book and reader. This should always be 1, shouldn't it? This should be 3. Yeah, we double incremented. And this should be 2. Now why is that 0 exactly? Oh, wrong number. Yeah. So let's just go back and fix that. That's awesome. Wallpaper syncing. Pywall, okay. I think I might be able to imagine what you're talking about. Basically, like throughout the day or throughout the year, the wallpaper changes. Is that basically what that does? Colours of the wallpaper with terminal borders and what? I see. Yeah, it might be a product of the control that you have, mightn't it? Yeah, I mean, it's a similar deal, isn't it? When you're writing a program in C, because you've got a really high degree of responsibility. When you're writing in C, you are sort of encouraged to just do the absolute minimum stuff you need, aren't you? Because like doing more than the minimum is just work, and it's like, well, you'd just rather do it. And also, you're kind of you're aware of what's going on, aren't you? I mean, I always refer to this as my example at this point. It's the template packing that I'm doing in Cinera. So basically, when you launch the program, it packs the templates, and all that does is take a template and it essentially run length encodes it, so that when you then subsequently integrate into that template, you're just using the packed data, right? You're not like, for each individual entry, you're not having to go through the template file and look for the places where you're supposed to be supposed to be like putting stuff, because you've got that information already. And I think just the motivation for me doing that was simply the knowledge of what's got to happen, which comes from the control and the responsibility that you have. Writing. Yeah, I'm not sure what writing is actually. Yeah. Yeah, I think aesthetics kind of matter. I mean, simple example, it's like if this if this stuff was if the font that I was using here was like Comic Sans or something, or it was like a handwritten font, it'd be a different kind of experience, wouldn't it? Oh, it makes making it look nice. Oh, I see. Right, gotcha. Right. I love how you keep writing riding. Right, so you goes, functional aesthetically changes. I've got you, right. Yeah. So it does include fonts. Yeah, I mean, one thing that, um, one thing that's a pure aesthetic thing, which is absolutely, completely unfunctional, and that I don't even see most of the time, is the window borders. So if I just do this, you can see that the window borders of this thing are rounded, right? So we've got like a rounded thing at the top left. Or in fact, all of the corners are rounded, apart from the bottom right, bottom left one. And I think I've got that. That's just a thing that I've got all over the place. So you should be able to see it here as well. Um, it's not super easy to make out, um, but this thing is the same deal. I mean, most of the time I actually don't have borders, but that's another thing. And I suppose that even lends even more to the insignificance of doing this, because I rarely even see it. Well, this has got also the rounder corners, and that's just it's just a throwback to the previous operating system that I used to use. I used to use Fedora, and the logo of that is in this sort of shape. Right, it's pure aesthetic and doesn't do anything, but I don't know, it's just kind of like a nice little thing. It's like when you see it, it's like, oh yeah. Tried Dunst with no notifications. I definitely haven't, no. Notification demon. Yeah, I don't actually have much notification actually. Yeah, what? Yeah, I'm not sure I even have anything that does notification. I mean, I suppose I could do for the updates. I could have, yeah, I could have a notification set for my updates, or for my email. You know, when you got a new email comes in, it just notifies you of that. But I don't know that. I guess the closest actually to notification that I have is WeChat. WeChat does beep when I get a message, when something like message, uses my username in a chat thing. I do get a message about that. I do get a beep about that. But that's as much as I have actually. So yeah, let's try this once more now that we fixed that. Try our test. We need to remove that. Remove this. We need to go to the Cinera.conf. Redo this. Do that. Build. Undo. Do this. Do that. And then we need to go to line 10153. So, we've accumulated that project index. What's it saying? It's test accumulator. Which we also, remember, we know that it's wrong. But it's coincidentally right at the moment. So, let's just make sure that we've got this right, as expected. Entries in generation. So in generation 0, we've got 1 entry. Generation 1, we've got 3. We're looking at risky, so it's risky, risk, and book. And in generation 2, we've got 2. Yeah, perfect. For reader and coad. So, we'll pass that test. Got another accumulator on the go here. Accumulate the project indices. I'll tell you what, actually. I can hear my stomach rumbling. I don't know why I'm so hungry. I think instead of setting the current generation to this, I think what you actually need to be doing is saying increment generation. So it's basically while the current generation is less than that, increment the current generation. So you can actually push all the dudes on. So let's try this again. We've got our child accumulator. So now we're looking at bitwise. So there's 2 generations in bitwise. Generation 0 and generation 1, which sound bang on. The entries in generation for the 0 should be 1, and this should also be 1. Yeah, so that's as I would expect. We've got that information. We've also got the actual main accumulator, so we know that we're in the main accumulator. In the first generation we were at 1, and the second generation we were at there. Third generation we were at 0. So we've got through hero. So am I right in thinking that this is just corresponding exactly to hero? Hero contains, let's just have a look. Intro to C, code, ray, chat and misc. Yeah, and that is 5. And it's got nobody in generation 2. So I think we can use that information, can't we? we basically know that we want to be, so here's our test accumulator. The test accumulator should be the thing that is multiple. So yeah, if I'm not mistaken, what we want to be doing is moving the test accumulator moving the projects corresponding to the ones tracked in the test accumulator leftwards, so that they occur at this point, so they're at 1, 5 and 0. And then increment the child accumulator stuff accordingly. Does that sound about right? Because we've got the test accumulator. Didn't we see that the test accumulator contains 1 in generation 0? Yeah, that contains 1 in generation 0. So we can add that to the full-on accumulator. Right. Because what we're trying to do here is get the new indices for the child that we're moving. Aren't we? But mind you, we're also trying to move the test accumulator to the left. It is, yeah. I mean, it's modelled after C. It looks really similar, doesn't it? With the scopes, and with the commenting. The main features of it, I mean, I like that you call it a language. It's just the config format. Main features of it are variables, which are like done like this. It's basically like how shell scripts do them. You initialize it with a $sign there and there. The variables can be either local or environment variables, and it'll figure out which it can use, which it can do it as. So it's that. It can also do including of files. Where's that? It's up, isn't it? So it can include files. And the include scope can also tell you what you're allowed to include in that include file. So that's necessary for Cinera, because I don't want. Basically, I want you to be able to include to do including to begin with, so that you can have like the administrator having, not having to be responsible for handling stuff that indexers can handle, basically. So an indexer can handle stuff like adding a new medium, adding new people. Like if a video comes along that has like a new guest which hasn't been accounted for, the indexer can just straight up set that new person. And also things like setting the medium, or rather setting a default medium. Like that's going to be like a convenient thing for an annotator or an indexer to set. But stuff like the HTML dir, and even more importantly, actually, the assets root dir and root URL, and the base dir, base URL, those things, and the CSS paths, and also the query strings for that matter, those things should not be set by an indexer. That should be the responsibility of the administrator. So there's this separation, and you also need to prevent. Well, I feel like you need to prevent. The administrator should have the control to prevent indexers from screwing over this stuff, essentially, either accidentally or just straight up. Have the responsibility for it. Yeah, I think so. I didn't actually do much reading about types of languages, actually, or types of parsers. I just kind of just threw it down. And yeah, so the other thing is that these things they get absorbed into scopes. So this HTML, you can set it once, and then everyone just inherits it. Everyone who can contain a HTML dir inherits it. So that'll be the project, essentially. And that's actually defined. Is it in the config.c? Tab specs. That's just defined in here. So you've got like this. You've got the root type, which should be able to contain all sorts. It can contain the ident list end. I mean, the list stuff isn't done. It can contain these booleans, this number, these scopes, these strings. The support scope can contain these. Include contain these. Person contains these. And this true is also saying whether it's absorbent, essentially. I think that's what it's saying. Yeah, it's permeable, that's what I've called it. These reminds me of the thing person give. Oh. Okay, interesting. 50 lines. Jesus. Well, that's pair for you, isn't it? a knowledgeable person actually doing it. I'll definitely check that out later. Let's just have a quick gander at push generation, just a second. So that only increments the current generation count, which is perfect. It doesn't add entry to generation. So yeah, I think we should be entitled, when we do the accumulate thingamajig, I guess I could say it another way. We could when we do the test accumulator, when we set up one of these people, we could say initialize accumulator, and that's going to initialize it to some state, right? And the state is going to match the actual accumulator that we're up to. Right, the current gen. So it's like for int equals I, it's just looping up to the current gen, pushing generations on so that we can, and then setting the current generation for it, so that we can actually start to operate, so we can actually start to push those dudes on, and so that you can have a situation where the first generation to have a count is not the first one. It's not the 0th one, essentially. So let's do that. We could do that, couldn't we? We could just say, right, we're going to initialize this to be the state of the current accumulator. Right, that should be reasonable, shouldn't it? And then you just return an actual project generations, and it will have malloc to whoever you need to malloc. I think that sounds reasonable to me. And also, I guess, call it G. So this is going to be for oh right, yeah. So we're going to push that generation onto the result. Having done that, you want to set the result current generation is equal to the gen's current generation. I mean, I guess if you want, you could just increment the current generation as you go. And just return the result. I feel like that should be reasonable. So you do that, and then the same deal is going to be here. I think I should be able to test this also. So let's do that. Let's try and test it somehow. Oh, actually, I don't think I'm going to hit it in this case, am I? Because I would need to go into somebody else. Yeah, I need to get to sync projects, I think. So it'd be basically coming into here. Let's just stick those guys above that. Have we got any more about? Let's stick them with the generation stuff. Because you can see that's happening up here, isn't it? Precursor to pro. It's not actually. It's a project to DB. Is there any generation stuff happening? What's this? Oh right. So now we're now into the realms of other stuff completely. All right. Doesn't matter. Really not important. So where's our stuff? That'll be fine. So we need to mimic, in our else case, this stuff here. And that's coming in as the G, I think, isn't it? Also, current generation, yeah, we need to stop that from happening because the test accumulator is going to do that. The init accumulator does that. So we're talking about the. So we've got an S parent. Let's just look at the actual thing. So it's an S. Okie dokie. So sync project. So how was the other person not getting that wrong? So I just copied it down, didn't I? Like, why isn't S parent saying the same deal? Oh, because S parent is, in this situation, the block, isn't it? Yeah, it's the TV block product, so it's a different structure. So this person doesn't need to set the generation. There or there. Get there. So yeah, how we're going to test this is we're going to add to our thing, let's just add to bitwise a child project called hardware. I mean, we don't need any other information actually for that matter. Adds hardware and software. I think we should be able to test this. Hope I'm not wrong. Project in DB located by that does not match the project got from the config hardware. Ah, interesting. So there's an instance of us looking at something that we shouldn't be looking at, because this bitwise 000 is not a project. Did I actually delete the database? Should have done. Interesting. Let's just add these. Let's just add a title for it. I sort of feel like that should have been okay though. Shouldn't it? Right, okay, so I've just broken something. Let's just remove that and just see if we're still actually able to produce the stuff. Because there's nothing weird going on there, as far as I'm aware. I suppose there's no default medium set, which could be something to do with it, maybe. Let's just add it back in. I mean, actually, let's just set the default medium and see if that fixes it. But it'd be interesting to see what we're actually producing, because basically without a default medium, it's not going to produce any people, any output. But mind you, it was saying bitwise 000, wasn't it? Book reader. There's risky, so it's before risky. So we are producing some of the stuff. So it's appended 000. and proceeding. Let's just let it happen again. And see what it says again. So project and DB located by that. There's not much project got from the config hardware. So we're trying to match 2, 0. Are we? Project in DB. Located by the project index, so we're getting this issue here. The current project ID. So we should be doing this. So we're locating project, the current project index. So we've got through everybody. Right, so we've done a sync project. Oh, right, this is the actual function we're talking about. Hang on a second, have we done this then? Yeah, we should have encountered insert project into DB recursively. Right, so we should have done this. Where's the index getting set? Now, if I'm not mistaken, we're not setting the index. Where's is there a post amble? There's the post amble. So that's got nothing to do with anything. There's the insertion point. Found it. I think this is actually no longer relevant, is it? Yeah, we're not even calling that, so that can go. Don't bother naming that, just get rid. So there's the preamble. This guy's taking the generations, increment the add entry generations, increment the current generation. Oh, right, I see. So add entry generation is setting that P index. How do you show the database? Architecture considers it. And everything on Dell. The person do best fit on add or something else. Yeah, right. So what I do is I just store it all. Yeah, I just try and make it match what it needs to fit, basically. So yeah, when you add an entry, yeah, it literally just takes the insertion point and just adds the stuff in. And then it increments, if it needs to increment any indices of landmarks, then it does that. And on deletion, what I basically do is I just figure out, I just omit the thing, really. So like when you see delete entry, it'll just delete up to, it'll just write up to the delete from DB. It just writes up to the bytes into file. So it basically locates the thing, doesn't it? It's going to locate the entry for this that corresponds to this entry, accumulating the file edit size also. So that the file edit size is to do with the other file. So we've got the metadata file, which is the guy that we're talking about here, the Cinera DB. This is the metadata file. There's also index files, which are the things that contain the thing that the JSON JavaScript search thing uses. So that's what the accumulate file edit size does. And yeah, then all I do is I just write out to the start of the deletion, and then just write out the stuff that's following it. How do you handle it from the middle? Yeah, that's all I do. So you locate where it's supposed to be. So the bytes into file has that determined. So that's pointer is this. So yeah, so end this. This is an entry. So end this is going to correspond at some point to, for example, let's go from somewhere in the middle. It's going to correspond to this, right? And I think this is the first thing in the entry. It'll basically locate this point in the file, and it'll say, right, that's where you are. It's that number of bytes into the file. It also needs to know the count. So somewhere in here, I think that's probably the count, or that. 1, 2. So that's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's 10. So that's probably, is this 10 here? I think that's probably 10. So this is probably the entry count. So basically, decrement the entry count. You need to make sure you can locate that. So you can decrement that. So then you write out all of the stuff down to past this header. Then you locate this entry that you're deleting. You also know that the entry index of that within this project. So then you write out the stuff here, and then you write out the rest of the file. And then it's after I've done that, I do that first, and then having done that, I actually update the landmarks. So if that was, for example, it's probably generation 1, project index 0, it's probably that, and then entry 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, let's just say it was entry 4, it would then go down to the assets block, and for each asset it just goes through and fixes up those indexes. So that's basically all I'm doing. Yeah, I do move everything on right. Yeah, I do. I mean, Casey did mention once something like it's something to do with being able to just always write to the end of the file. It was in the context of doing the database as a Merkle tree, basically. So there's like checksums going on, and you always just write to the end of the file. And I just never managed to get my head around that. I was always hitting up against the idea that you need to know how many entries there are, right? Hence the finding the locating the asset header first of all. Sorry, locating the project header, decrementing its entry count, which is this, writing out to that, and then so basically locating this so you can decrement it. I just couldn't figure out. I couldn't get my head around how you could do how you do Merkle trees basically. Omitting and patching everything to match the new file. Yeah. Did that make any sense? So yeah, I mean I do that for entries. That's how I do it for the entries. And I'm basically at the point now where I'm actually trying to get this working for whole projects. So I'm going to have to somehow. Oh, I suppose another thing I should also mention is the way that I'm storing this whole thing, because it's a tree, right? I'm actually storing it depth first. So you see like how the assets block. You remember how I'm storing this? Well, actually, I can show it the other way, can't I? Oh, I can't. Merkle tree. I think it's spelled like that. Interbot's not interested. I don't think Angela Merkel made it. I don't think she was responsible for it. So I might get the spelling wrong. Okay, yeah. One of these dudes. So basically it hashes nodes and something. I never got my head around it. But yeah, I'm storing the landmarks breadth first, right? But I'm storing the project's depth first in the project block. Oh. I think I've actually got an interesting case here, haven't I? Or have I? Yeah, I have. Right. The case I've got here that might be triggering this is that I've got a project. This project here contains entries, and it also contains projects. I think that's the source of my mismatch here. So I need to fix that. I should be able to trigger that for some other stuff, shouldn't I? Like if I was to just say that the risk was all of a sudden containing another project called something, this should also produce the same error, shouldn't it? And in fact, let's just remove the one from bitwise, just so it doesn't get triggered by that. Yeah, perfect. So I think let's just take a quick detour and just figure out that. I might have to go and eat actually, because I'm pretty hungry. I mean, you've probably heard the odd stomach rumbling. We've been doing it a couple of hours, but I was getting pretty goddamn thirsty as well. So for me, storing the landmarks bread first. It feels like it makes more sense to me, or rather, it feels more direct to me, because what you're actually trying to do whenever you have to operate on the landmarks, you're always going through them sequentially. So you remember yesterday when we were doing the when we saw the hashing of assets happening, what happens is it goes into each asset, right? Where are we? It goes into each asset, and it literally just, but I can show you in the code as well. Snipe checks them into HTML. It goes over all of the is it here? Update as in DB. Yeah, I think it's here. So it's basically, well, shouldn't it be saying for all assets somewhere? Yeah, I suppose it goes over the landmarks actually. So, okay. Yeah, right, so this is taking an asset which is going to be pointing to something in the database. Right, it's going to be pointing to the start of one of these dudes. If I can get there. Right, so it's going to be a pointer that's pointing right to here. Or rather, probably actually right to here. I beg your pardon, it's going to be pointing right here. And then it just loops over all of its landmarks. So it's going over, it's going through it sequentially. The projects, on the other hand, it just felt like what was my reasoning for this way? I think I thought that in order to traverse the projects tree and do the kind of operations that we need to do on the projects tree, we'd need to store some additional stuff as you're traversing. Like if you're going to store it breadth first, then you'd need to have your accumulator always working. Whereas if I'm not mistaken, if you do the locate entry, what's this doing? Sorry, I need to talk about locate project. So it's using landmark project. Ah, is this actually using... Yes, but it is using an accumulator. So yeah, it probably doesn't matter actually. There was a reason though, but I just cannot for the life of me remember what it was. Um, I did, yeah, I did kind of like talk through it because I did it all on stream. Maybe we can go back and sort of see what my thought process was for it. Yeah, everything's fixed size. Yeah. Yeah, they're all fixed size, so you can just index straight into them. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, that sounds about right to me. I want to have been able to say this sentence myself, but yeah. Yeah, I can also, by the way, for each landmark, I do need to change this. Let's just see what to do. Do the, I do need to do that, because then you don't need to bother to get the actual project. But yeah, that was my thinking for the landmarks. It was like, well, if you're operating on them, you're going to be operating on them from some range. I think. Yeah. They don't know. They need to actually store. They need to store the actual project index. So that's part of it. Because a project might yeah, they also don't correspond one-to-one with entries either, because an entry could contain more than one landmark for a given asset. Perfect example of that is the send owl logo. So you see in Hamid Hero, right? We've got this send owl logo here. There's going to be 2 landmarks for every entry of Handmade Hero for the send out logo. So you actually need to store the index of the entry. And by a similar token, some entries don't contain landmarks for assets, nor do some projects need them. So yeah, they can't really correspond one-to-one, in the sense that you can't just iterate through the landmarks and know that like a given landmark is automatically going to be referring to a given entry or project. Yeah, entries and projects. Yeah, so you don't store inside the projects. If something is index 12, or let's say index 10, that's going to be the 11th project, isn't it? It's all right. So basically, you can you go to the project's header, and then you take the first entry, and you just add. So you get a pointer to the first entry, and then you just add you add 10 to that, and you're sitting at the right entry. So yeah, a project sort of inherently has a number of a project has a number of entries, and yeah, you can just jump straight to them, but they're only indexed into by the landmarks. Like, they're not stored anywhere else. They're not stored in the entry, in other words. Because if you stored them in the entry, then every time you did an edit, you'd have to also, in addition to updating the actual indices that are necessary in the landmarks, you'd also have to update the indexes in the entries that are following the current entry. I have no idea what the tree looks like. Cool. Yeah, I mean it's basically a flat representation, isn't it? Because it's just a file. And there's no kind of dimensionality to it. It's not a 2D thing. So it's just a flat representation of your tree. I mean, the tree is basically this thing. So you've got some actual content. Sort of. I mean, this guy's kind of explaining it in terms of the indices, but it doesn't actually. Yeah, it doesn't tell the actual database structure. I guess the database structure is only implied from this, so no, I guess I'd have to say it haven't. I haven't done that, but I could do. Oh right, yeah. So did that make sense? The idea of the landmarks being these dudes, they're referring to stuff like that. Found, not found. They also refer to this. So it's basically everywhere that you see the hash, actually. That's basically all it is. What is that saying? Oh, lots of sauce for that. Okay. So yeah, it's all where the hashes are. And the actual purpose of them, of the landmarks, is it's simply to just do this sniping of the hashes in. So when when an asset gets updated, you literally just go through the landmarks and just stuff the stuff in. So this is going back to like what we were saying earlier about when you've got the control or the responsibility to do stuff, you just do the minimum. It's just the same deal. It's like when I'm generating this file, I have to go past this. I have to go past all of these locations anyway. So I was just like, well, when I go past this location, I might as well just store where I am. Right. So then subsequently, whenever somebody needs to actually modify this thing here, they don't need to. Everybody doesn't need to go and like search for this hash. You can just jump directly to it because I've told you where it is. So it's the same deal. This just as like the integrating into the templates thing. It isn't, no, but I can pop it up somewhere for you. It is a 16. It's a 16 thingamajig resolution file. How big does this actually need to be? So that's 100%. So I think that's readable. These are a bit small. Let's scale it by half. How long it's taking to scale? Oh, it's got a bunch of layers. That's probably what's going on. So there you go. There's a half a K file, half a meg actually. And there's a bit of something there. Don't know what that is. How do I do this? What was the file called? That. Right, perfect. If I'm not mistaken, it just goes straight to there, I think. Yeah, it looks like it. There you go. I have, yeah. I definitely do need to get Milton on the go. I did think about it while I was doing that thing actually. And I believe Miyatatsu also actually ported it to Arch. Like he got it fully working on Arch. So yeah, there's no excuse for me not to use Milton. And plus I'm in love with Surge, so I should be should be using Milton. Yeah, it's cool. I'm giving you ideas. Yeah, database is pretty. It's pretty. I don't know really how to describe it. Oh, is it? It's on the AUR. Oh, nice one. I wonder if that's. Whoops. Oh, that's how you can do that. And if it goes a bit right. So I like how these are numbered in reverse order. Oh yeah, that's really cool actually. I didn't realise that Yay can do that. You just do that and it gives you the options. Sweet. So it needs all of these for making. Yeah. I'd like to check out the package file for that package actually, to see if it is Mio's work. So we got a failure, a hunk failure. I reckon that. Okay, so I guess I'll have to figure out how to do that. I don't know what hunk failed means. Unity.cc.reg. Save movie text to files. Yeah, I'm not sure. Can I just see the information for that? Oh yeah, it's Milton Gate or something, isn't it? The maintainer was John Who. That name actually rings a bell. I don't think that's Mio. Oh, if they submitted, then that's modified. Cool. Yeah, database. It's kind of I don't know. It's one of those things that I guess it just requires a really high degree of sort of reliability, really. I mean, this particular database I'm doing here, this is different from a database that I've done for an authentication thing, which I did for Mio as well, who we've just been talking about. Just ask for annotations. I did not know. What did I miss? Aha. By the way, is there a way to get antisocial line needs performer? Because it's something that as far as I know, there isn't at the moment. But I think somebody did do something that took the. It takes like the search, like the the file that this page is using. What is that going to be? I think it's under code.index, I think is what it is. Yeah, they basically, I think somebody took this file and they produced something out of it. I think they produced like chapter points or subtitles that that you can use in VLC or MPV, your thing of choice. But that's not something that I have exactly got involved in yet. It's something that I do need to keep in mind, though. The fact that somebody has done it. Hopefully I've got a note of who did it somewhere, so I can tell them. Because that file format is probably going to actually change pretty goddamn soon, actually. Yeah, so their thing is going to break. Unfortunately, I can't remember who that was. Yeah, I'll try and look at my notes later and see if I can find out who it was, and then I can let you know. In fact, let me just make a note now that you want to know. Did I get the capitalisation right there? Unfortunately, the capitalisation does not come through. So yeah, here we go. Let's see if we can just tackle this. Just go by simp. Most places, okay. Cool. Yeah, right. So we've established that we're actually exhibiting the bug in the way that we sort of thought we could do. And this failing. This is the bugged version, isn't it? Yeah. So this is failing to locate the project. I wonder if it's just something as simple as the skip project children failing to skip the actual entries. Apparently it is doing skipping the entries. You know what, daughter? I haven't I haven't been on Hadrian's team for ages and ages, so I've got no idea. There used to be some stuff, like they wanted you to have a logo for it. You needed stuff like an image that sort of illustrates the project. You need a description. And also links to like Git repos and stuff like that, and home pages. But it's absolutely ages since I was on it, so they could have changed what they want. Yeah, I think I mean, they used to have information on the actual page. Submit a project. There should be a submit a project thing. Oh, it's there. So what's happening? Have I crashed the... What's going on? CPU, RAM. Is that password required again? Right. So I think over here, when you're logged in, this submit a project thing, I think you should be able to click on it, and then it should have some information as to what they sort of expect of the projects, I think. Cool. So here we go. Init neighborhood is happening after the syncdb. Should we first of all jump in to this locate project call? Or rather, because it's only right down here, isn't it? I guess we could provoke it to happen earlier, couldn't we? If instead of adding the person in, what was it, risk, something, yeah. So instead of adding it down here, let's add it into hero. And also, let's do it in the include file. Right. Well, it's not there. It's in... Oh, right, so this one doesn't matter. Let's do it inside here. Right. So we should catch it really early, so we can just jump in. Just show that we do actually hit it. Yeah, perfect. And it's the locate project, so let's go to the line 7361. Yeah, I do. I think it comes up automatically, actually. I think when you're just not logged in, it just pulls it up. This should pass, shouldn't it? Yeah. So we're now looking at Gen 1, index 0. This should also pass. Generation 2, index 0. So this is what should be, well, it shouldn't, but it is failing. So we've apparently stepped in, haven't we? What have I done there? So I'm sure I pressed S, didn't I, to step in? So why did it not step me in? I have to do that again. But basically, I think I'm not here, aren't I? I think this is the case that we're failing on, isn't it? Yeah. We need to go back through and see what locate project actually did. Yeah, it's complete garbage. Intro to C, it shouldn't be that at all. Just quit, because I need to get into that function. Well, hang on a second, I need to quit. All I need to do is do this, and this, and then just run it again. Yeah. So, continue, and step in, please. Try again. Continue. So I think we should be into locate. Yeah. So this is the second project that we're looking at. Gen 1, index 0. Continue and continue. Right. So we're now looking. So this is the case that's failing us. All right, Delta. Have a good one. And cheers for popping in. And reminding me to rebind the password keyboard. I wonder if the project's block is misplaced actually. That sounds right. Locate first child of project. So what was it? Hero. So we're basically trying to skip past. Oh no, we should be trying to get into generation 2, shouldn't we? That's what we actually want to be happening. Because the accumulator is going to start off at generation 0, 0. We need to get it up to generation 1. Sorry, generation 2. So we're still not a high enough generation, by the way. So we shouldn't be going into there. In this case now, we have actually got the right accumulated the right number of generations. Yeah, so we're on accumulate generation 2. So the header is handmade hero, right, isn't it? Or rather, it's just, yeah, hero. The first child of it is intro to C. Right. So we should be passing that child to locate project recursively, shouldn't we? Oh, shit. I see. Yeah, we're not. So basically here, what's going to happen is we're going to pass the child to locate project recursively, and then the first thing we're going to try and do is locate its first child project, which is bogus. So it's just this is not right. Locate first child project can't just increment past the header, can it? That actually has to increment past the entries also. Yeah, I didn't realise that. So it's plus equal size of P, plus equal the size of entries times P count. That's the problem. Locate first child. Yeah, I wonder how often this is going to be an issue. Yeah, it might not be an issue for anyone else actually. So a block cannot have any entries, so that's literally just the header. He just increment past the header. But this dude down here, has to do that. So you skip past the header and skip past the size of entries times the entry count. That feels a little bit more correct to me. So let's just, actually let's quit, because it's a bit, if I reload that, well it's still only one line actually, isn't it? So maybe loading should be fine. And this one should be fine, shouldn't it? Yeah. So the next time through, so now looking at 2, generation 2. 2.0, isn't it? Yeah. So we've got hero. When it comes through, we need to accumulate the generations first, so that ain't gonna fly. Still need to accumulate. So accumulate here. Now, this loco project recursively, we've got the child, intro to C. I'm going to step through. Intro to C is going to be our new iteration. So this call here should now produce a different child. Perfect. Something. That's exactly what we want to happen. Previously it would have been producing the intro to C 0, 0. Yeah, so that was just a straight up miscalculation on our part. And I guess it would have kept on failing. Yeah, I guess that was just, it just simply wasn't right. And it could conceivably probably have ended up crashing us at some point. Yeah, but now we found it. We found hero and just to see something. We can proceed. So yeah, that was all that was. So I think I'm going to call it there because I'm really hungry. And let us just set up the thing for what we actually want to be testing. So we were talking about having something there. Bitwise down here. We're talking about having this is what we're talking about having. So we wanted to see how we're accumulating these things. And it was essentially up here, wasn't it, actually? It was this area. I think I wanted to see, when we get there, what these child accumulators were. So I'll tell you what, before we go, actually, let's just try it. Let's get these guys into the database, as they are. Then let's remove this something project and see where we end up. I expect we should hit this case down here. And I want to see that the child accumulator and also the test accumulator, I want to see basically the configuration of these things, what they look like. we'll also actually just go into here just to make sure that I can actually get in it. Yeah, let's go to turn 160. Oh, actually, yeah, I'm not going to hit that case, am I? So we're busted, aren't we? Because we haven't even, yeah, we haven't deleted it, so. Try that again. I suppose just to make sure that we actually do get in there. So there's no chance of us not. Let's just put one there too. Sync projects. We should be. This is the preceding call, isn't it? Preceding function. Yeah, perfect. Just a step. Great. So we're now here. Increment the current generation. Okay. They match. What generation are we on? Yeah, we're still on generation 1, aren't we? Yeah, that's okay. So now we're going to recursively go into that. Increment the current generation to 2. So now what we should find oh, we found that we should get down to here now. Yeah, I suppose that does make sense. Well, that's code, which we shouldn't be deleting that. Why did it want us to delete that? Is that just skipped past somebody? What, where are we? That's interesting to see. And they're talking about S-child being code. Oh. No, I don't understand that. Because we should have stored, should we not? The actual something project. Interested to see one. Right, so we need to, yeah. Yeah, like I'm saying, shouldn't S-child be something? Because we're not handling this deletion yet. I don't know. Let's pick it up again tomorrow. We haven't done an awful lot, but I mean we sort of started to do it. Yeah, let's just do that. So basically, the thing that we're trying to do, let's do the to do here. See how the project generations. That's basically it. Yeah. So that's what we're going to do tomorrow. 3 hours we've done. Blimey. So thank you very much, Heroes and Heroines, for being here, for being beautiful and fantastic, and for being based in data. I mean, we didn't do an awful lot of add, MOV and del, did we? But we got some of it started to plan. So yeah, until next time. Farewell for now.